Hi everybody. So I'm just gonna take off my glasses. I hope you guys like my new look. Anyways, in this video I want to share you guys a little bit about my testimony. So, I was born a Christian Pentecostal. Uh, I remember it was a church. It's called Senda Antigua, which is like the old type of churches where you see a lot of different types of people there, and there's just a piano and a guitarist and like the old-fashioned hymns, songs. And yeah, that's the type of church I actually grew up in. And then it was like the assembly church, uh, I don't know. Anyways, because I'm not really, I'm a Christian, but I know nothing about like the divisions or whatever types of thing. Anyways, so I did grow up, being a Christian. I remember that since I was a very little girl, since I started, actually going to school at the age of like 6 or 7, my parents would always go to work, and I most of the time was alone. After school, I had to go to daycare, and my mom, since I was that little, she would always tell me like, "You're not alone. God is with you. You're not alone. God is with you." And so, that imaginary friend that most kids have, well, God was the one with me at all times, and let me tell you, I had conversations with him. Not like myself answering, no, like he would literally give me a lot of knowledge and wisdom with the things, and like how to see things and what to do in certain situations. My parents were very ignorant in a way where they just left me with anybody. And even though like I was in homes where like the main parents or the people that were taking care of me, they would be violent drug addicts. They would do drugs and drink, and like I would just stay in the room and pray all the time, and I would be like, God, please, God. And I would always pray the the psalm, Psalms 4:8. I don't know it in English, but I do know it in Spanish. And I, you know, I I was neglected for a long time as a child. Over the years, once you start going to school, you start seeing the popular kids, you start seeing the popular stuff, mainstream things. You just tend to like distract yourself from the true reality of life, which for me is God. And I do believe not just for me, but for everyone. Anyways, so the thing is that as a very young age, I've had discernment of spirits, I've had knowledge, I've had wisdom. I remember that, my babysitters were like, come to me crying and tell me all their problems, and I would always have the right word to say. Um, I was just a child. I was like 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. Yeah, of course, I was a child, so I had like a childish, mindset in a way, but also like my heart was childlike. So like, I don't know. Anyways, so I grew up in a Christian church, but then at the age of probably 13, I just stopped going to church. I did start going to church again, like at the age of 14 and 15. I would go just once in a while. I would tell one of my aunts if they wanted to take me, which they did. Um, I do want to say that as a child, because I was neglected or like not taken care of wellly, or yeah, I was abused for about 3, 4 years. Um, and yeah, I'm just gonna let that really did affect me. It affected my identity. It affected how I saw myself. And literally, like, I remember the day I actually confessed. Um, I was nauseous. I felt like I needed to throw up, and I was like, God, like I was like telling God, I was like, God, what's going on? Why do I feel nauseous, but why do I also feel like I need to say something? And I was with my lime trying to like throw up in a toilet, and God was like, you need to confess. And I was like, what? No, I don't. What do I need to? I don't have to confess anything. Like, what are you talking about? I don't. And like, I was in denial. I was in denial. I didn't want to say anything because I was also how do you call it? I was also threatened. So I didn't understand why God was telling me like confess, confess, confess. I was like, no, no, no. Like, I knew what the consequences was. And I knew these things because obviously this person told me these things were going to happen. But I've always, back then I was just very obedient, and I remember that I was just throwing up. Like, I wasn't throwing up, I wanted to throw up. And I was like, God, but why? I don't have to. Why? What do I have to confess? What do I have to? I was like in denial. And then all of a sudden, I had my first actual like vision. I was, in the toilet when all of a sudden I just see like the flashes of all the things that was happening to me, all the events. And I had, from that moment, I just started crying and crying and crying because I was actually understanding, like, wow, so these things were not well. Like, they weren't. Like, I knew it deep down in my heart, but I was also lied. So I had doubt. And, he just, told me, like, hey, you got to say it. And I spoke. So a lot of things that happened after that. I was rejected. All the things that this person told me was gonna happen happened, and you know it's very sad because I was a lonely child, and these confessing meant that I was gonna be away from the only people I actually loved and cared for. That were the only people that were there for me. They were like my best friends. They were everything for me. And you know, I had to, and I suffered a lot growing up with that, And besides that, people that are ignorant, they just started, giving me the blame. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. Well, it's not my fault because I was just a child and I was just being obedient, and I had to. Because if it wasn't going to be me, who knows what was going to happen next? Anyways, so I grew up and a lot of things happened. I wasn't only the only person that suffered, but the rest of my family did too. And it hurt me so badly to see them suffer. Anyways, I just had so much rejection, so much hurt in my heart that I wasn't hearing God's voice anymore. And I wasn't having a lot of discernment anymore. And I just started to like do my own thing. Even, even though I was starting to do my own thing, I I just feel glad that at least in my first 18 years, I was doing a good job, just by being obedient. Anyways, um, so I started, I started going to church again at the age of like 17. And so I went to church age of 17, 18 until 19. So 3 years of actually going to church and becoming a member and being in the worship group and being in the kids, the youth, serving and everything there. As a child, I was also, doing all those things, but at the age of 13, I stopped. So you know. Anyways, um, and at the age of 19, almost 20, a lot of things happened in church. Uh, in the moment that I was actually baptized by the Holy Spirit and, you know, really surrendering to God, that's when the enemy just started to like attack me. A lot of things happened. And I said, you know what? I am never going to become a member. I am never going to be in a worship group. I will never do anything for the church ever again. At the age of 21, I was like, you know what? I don't want to know anything about this. I don't want to know anything about God. And that's when, like, almost to the age of 22, well, 21, I was already like doubtful and like practically an atheist. And then I tried going back to church at the age of 23. Um, and I did. And, because every time I would go, like, at least, you know what, you know, mm, there's that thing. Non-believers and people that are agnostic or people that are Christian but they don't do what as a Christian what a Christian has to do, they feel empty inside. And I don't know about the rest, but at least me, I had the need of going to church even though I didn't want to, even though I didn't believe. I just had the need. I had the need of going and to just get into God's spirit, because that is the place where I was really like full. Like I filled all that emptiness. So I would just go once in a while. But then, the fullness didn't last. I had to go again after I felt depressed again, or after I felt empty again. Anyways, and every time I would go, like, the pastor would always come and the leaders would come and say, "Hey, like, why don't you be in the worship group? Why don't you become a member?" And I I was like, "No, I don't want to." Anyways, so that happened. And at the age of 23, that's when I literally declared and, said, you know what? I don't want to know anything about God. And I made my last prayer in that moment. I was like, if I have to stop believing in you to start believing in the truth, let this be. And I know I'll see you again. That's what I said. And I remember it because after that, I decided to become an atheist. I was like, I'm already doubtful. I'm already like, from all the faith I had, I only had like this much. And then I was like, you know what? I don't want to believe. And I just put it in trash. And that's when everything got worse. I started having a very I started having a very destructive life after I stopped going to church at the age of 19. But at the age of 23, when I actually decided to like become an atheist, that is where everything has started. All of this destruction, where in another video I'm going to let you guys know more about it. Anyways, so, atheist probably for like 3-4 years. Then I became an agnostic. I became an agnostic because, smoking a lot of weed, you tend to like feel connected and you just tend to like see that there's things that are like energies and then, ooh, like energies and vibes. So like you tend to see all of that. So I just got into like an agnostic new age spirituality type of thing. To tell you the truth, right before I became a Christian, I hugged trees. I would go like to the woods like with no shoes on. I would take my shoes off. I would just smoke and just feel like I'm connected to Mother Nature. And I would like believe all of that stuff. And like I was this close of getting into the rituals and the crystals. Like I was already like burning essence and like doing yoga and all of those things. And you feel something. You feel something different, but it's not peace. You just feel high. Anyways, so I became a Christian. about 8 months ago. It was in November. And oh, God is so amazing. God is so amazing. God knew. Like, religiousness, I took it out of, like, I threw it in the trash. Like, everything about Jesus, God, and like the Bible and everything I learned in church, I threw it in the trash. And I was suffering so much, and God just saw me like in that pit and like said and heard, like, He knew my mindset. He knew everything. And He was so sweet. He was so kind. Like, He came to me and He started revealing to me the spiritual world. He started revealing to me about the present and the future. He started to reveal to me who He was. He started to talk to me. I started to have dreams for the first time after like 4 or 5 years after drinking so much medication. Um, I started to, like, little by little believing, and I believed. I believed in God. I believed in Jesus. The thing is that in my mind, like in my own knowledge, I didn't actually believe in Jesus. So I didn't like calling myself a Christian because I was like, I don't know if He's God. I don't know if He's God. Because why? Because God was taking me to a process. Like, how will I know about Jesus if I don't know about the Father? Like, I needed to know God before knowing Jesus, before knowing what Jesus came to do in our lives and came to do in this world. So of course, like, He didn't come to me with like, oh, you're a Christian, you have to, follow Jesus, blah blah blah. Like, after 3 weeks of like becoming, getting like so connected to God and like feeling like in a cocoon of His presence, after like 3 weeks, He's like, okay, it's time to read the Bible. And and I in that moment I had the mentality that, okay, the Bible was true. I believed in the Bible. I just thought that Jesus was a prophet, coming from God, and that He was not God. So like little by little, like the first book Jesus told me to read was Matthew, which is the first book of the New Testament. And I started reading it and reading it and reading it, and I knew exactly what I was reading. Like, I started having revelation. I just knew the Bible. I started preaching. I started like literally, and you know what? From day one, I was delivered. From day one, I felt in my spirit that God was telling me, okay, no more medication. But I actually said to God, I was like, God, I still have doubts, and I still have questions that are not answered. So I don't want to, like, I believe in you. Just give me more time, you know? Because in a way, I still had the mindset of, what if I'm psychotic? What if I'm delusional? What if I'm just going to end up in a hospital again? You know? And the thing is, the day that I had my first vision after so many years, like that day, that first day I started believing in God, he started to like reveal to me with visions. And I literally called my psychologist in my first vision. I was like, I think I'm psychotic. I think I'm crazy. Take me to the hospital now. And the ER came for me. I went to the hospital. They were like, you're just smoking weed. I'm like, no. I know what smoking weed feels like. I was, doing it for 4 years. But this was different. This was different because I felt it in my heart. I felt it in my spirit. I felt that it was coming from something that was not earthly, but godly. And, you know, like, trust me, trust me. I'm too smart and I'm too knowledgeable with psychology and all of those things to like literally start saying, if something that I'm thinking and that I'm doing and all the symptoms I'm having, if it's out of the spectrum of like disorders, like of normality, then of course I'm going to go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I'm going to be like, hey, I'm having this symptoms, I need help. But no, I one of the biggest things that is a huge symptom that literally made me feel like what's going on with me was good is that for the first time in my life, maybe in a long time, I had mental peace. My mind was in silence. I was so like in peace. I could hear God's voice. I could hear my voice, my inner voice, and God's voice for the first time. And I had my mind in silence. I wasn't attacked with like, yeah, how do you call it? Thoughts. You know, those thoughts that you that are out of control and like wild and like repetitive. Oh, here's my chocolate. I was looking for it. Intrusive thoughts. Before, I would have intrusive thoughts all the time. I was always anxious and depressed and manic and all that stuff. That I was never stable. I never had a peaceful mind. Like, that's why I would always get high. Because being high, at least my mindset or the thoughts that I had weren't bad or not all the time. So, like, that was my first, and just with that was for me, that was a miracle. Because I always wanted to be at peace. I did everything to, try to find my peace. I changed my routine. I started sleeping well. I started sleeping like 9 to 10 hours a day. I started to like, not drink and not smoke and well, not smoke cigarettes. I I would wake up and early. I would go run. I would go to the gym. I did yoga. I read books. I try to have a nice routine where I would be away from all stress. And like I actually replaced my dream job for a job where I could actually be at peace with myself. So like I did everything and none of that worked. And just by believing in God and actually having revelation God and actually having 100% faith in God, like I just had a peaceful mind. And then little by little, revelations and dreams, and like God just gave me the capacity, like He literally guided me of what spirituality is all about. I didn't know about deliverance. I didn't know about demons. I didn't know about praying in the sick and getting them healed. Like I didn't know any of that, and now I could see it with my own eyes. Now, like I can't go back with like doubting again. I just can't. And I'm just so happy now, and that's my testimony. And just if you want more details of who I used to be back then, like I made another video, and I hope like you guys really hear it and consider it. Like I know religion made it terrible, and there is a spirit called religious spirit, which comes with a controlling spirit, a spirit that wants to control. And let me tell you something. God is not a religion. God is not a religion. Even though the Bible, the Bible, many religions follow the Bible. The Bible is powerful, and people out there want to, if they want to control others, they will definitely use the Bible to control, because the Bible, the Word of God, is life. And even if a liar, even if a false prophet is preaching the Word of God, oh, chocolate. Um, Even a false prophet is preaching the word of God, the people that are receiving that word will be transformed. It's not about who is preaching, it's not about who is doing these things, it's about the people receiving it. Obviously, we have to discern and have to understand that they will be, you know, people out there that want to like preach the Bible for their own convenience. But, you know, everybody's in their process, and things just happen. And I just hope, you guys see and understand that if I changed, it wasn't because um, I didn't like the life I had. Of course I did. Like, what I didn't like was the fact that I would get depressed or manic all the time. But besides that, I did love going out at night. I loved going out to dance. I loved drinking. I loved going out. Like, I loved weed. I loved doing all of that. But my mindset changed like a 300-degree. And I don't, it's not that I love it or don't love it. Well, I just don't love it. It's more like I don't want it. I don't need it. I'm already filled. I already have everything I want. And I don't have the desire of hurting this I have in my body. That's made me a new person. I don't want to hurt it. I don't want to make it sad. And yeah, that's my testimony. So if you guys have any questions or doubts, always let me know. Send me a message. I would be glad to like answer any questions you guys have. Even if you are an atheist and you wanna just debate with me, I'm also fine with that. I don't get angry with opinions or contradictions. I will get angry with um, when people are just trying to like get me mad. But anyways, God bless you guys, and just remember that Yeshua is the Almighty.